Hey, you're back. Welcome to Season 2 of The People We Meet. My name is Ty Brunner, and I'll be your host. This is a show about ordinary people that have done extraordinary things. I'm glad you're here, and let's get on with it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The People We Meet. This is the Season 2 opener, and today I'm with a very interesting couple, a very nice couple that I've really enjoyed talking with, that escaped from the fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints. I'm here today with Ange and Cade Johnson, and they have a very interesting story. I'm excited to get into it. Ange, Cade, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
So I'd like to start all the way at the very beginning. All good stories have all good stories start with, where were you born? Cade?
You want to start with me?
Yeah.
I was born in Hilldale, Utah, which is a twin city of Colorado City, Arizona, right on the border. I was born into the FLDS church. It was pretty well established. Then my whole family, the whole community was FLDS. More than that.
Okay. No, that's good. Ange?
Yeah, I was born into the church as well. So I was born in their group in Canada, so just north of here in British Columbia, a little community nestled in the mountains called Bountiful that my grandfather had settled. And it was very well established in the FLDS as well. And my parents were in there, So
you both were born into the church, grew up in the church.
Yes.
Yep.
And now you were featured in the April edition of People magazine. And I read that article. And then the first time that we spoke, you recommended that that a good reference is Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, the Netflix docuseries. So I watched that. And I was blown away to think that you were there for that. And your lives were profoundly impacted and shaped by that. What was it like growing up in that church?
For me, when you grow up, that's all you know. So I thought it was pretty great at the time. We did all the normal family things. I grew up, my father only had one wife until I can't remember, maybe 10 or 11 years old, and he got a second one. We were excited at the time.
You were excited that your father got a second wife?
That's a huge blessing.
So walk me through a day in the life.
I went to a regular school. I actually went to a public school that they had back then. They don't do that anymore, but
they're all segregated now.
Yeah, they have their own schools. But yeah, I think it was just like any other family. My mom had a lot of kids. I was number 5 and she had 11 total. So
you're you're right in the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle.
So with all of those kids, did you have a lot of responsibilities? Because
yeah, I mean, we, just like any other family, we had to take care of stuff. Every summer we did work crew where all the boys of the community would gather and we had to go and hoe weeds around the whole town every morning. And then the community had Saturday morning work projects. So every Saturday, the entire community, men, women, everybody would go meet at the meeting house and decide whose house they needed to work on. So,
and what was it like going to, you said you went to a public school.
Yeah, I went to a public school until 7th grade, where I was actually a little bit rebellious. I got in trouble and my parents pulled me out of school for 8th grade.
And how did you, kids are mean. How did you fit in? Did they look at you like, oh, there's that weird kid from the church?
The majority of the kids in my school were FLDS. There were the few that weren't. Mm-hmm. And to be quite honest, we were mean to them because we felt like we were better. We were told in church that you are chosen. You're God's 1 in a million, and you're going to be the people that are going to resettle the earth after the destructions. And that was the basis of our entire life, is that God's going to lift up the good people. The earth's going to be baptized by fire, and then you're going to be set back down. It's based on Mormon culture. We're going to be set back down in Jackson County, Missouri, and then we're going to resettle the earth with just only God's chosen people.
So why bother being friends with those kids if they're all going to burn and go to hell?
Pretty much. It sounds terrible, and it is. It was, and it still is.
Yeah, it certainly is. How about you, Ange? What was it like for you?
So mine was quite different than his because we had a private school with the community. So only FLDS went to the school that I went to. And so we didn't really have any interaction with the outside community at all, except for we would go to like doctor's appointments and, little things like that outside the community. And I would always like wonder and look around like, oh, again, with shame on these guys because they're not as good as we are, right? And when you're taught that from birth, it's kind of a huge disservice because you think that in your head, like, oh my gosh, we're the chosen ones. And then you go and you almost have this judgment on everybody. And so a day in my life would have been like we did a lot of gardening again. I think they had to find a way to keep all the kids busy. But in the summer, for sure, we would garden and we did a lot of canning and a lot of farming. So my dad had a lot of animals, a lot of housework. I'm the second oldest of 10. And so I was responsible for a lot of the household stuff and a lot of the kids. And, we would also sew and do crafts and stuff. We never had any radios or TVs or anything like that. That was all not allowed. So we found ways to make ourselves very busy. So lots of cooking and sewing and yard work and, flower beds and all the things, but very busy.
So on the one hand, you developed a pretty good work ethic and a lot of and a lot of skills. And on the other, kind of a warped view of what the rest of the world was like and everybody outside of the camp.
Yeah, for sure. And we do joke about that. We are very self-sufficient in that we can pretty much figure out how to do most things because we learned young how to do a lot of different things. So
yeah, it's not like we weren't aware. Like my grandpa and my dad both went to the military. So they had seen the world before we came around. And we were aware of everything going on in the world. Like we did have a TV. We watched the news once in a while. My dad would allow like a John Wayne movie on Saturday night. It was very regulated, but at the same time, he was really quick to point out the things that weren't right. Like I remember so many times my mom and I, or the kids, we would go get new books. We'd find a secondhand store or a yard sale and buy books, and then we'd spend the rest of the day drawing clothes on the people that didn't have clothes on.
Oh my goodness.
Because we need to be fully covered from ankles to wrists,
So you grew up very far apart. You grew up in very different environments, even though it was still all integrated into...
It was very much the same. We followed the same prophet. His name was Roland Jeffs at the time. It was very close. And back then, they had their own church as well, but they would also listen in. They would have a phone call so they could hear the church from Colorado City.
Yeah. So from Canada, it was actually like mic'd into our meeting house up there. And so they would have hooked to the church in Colorado City. So we would get the same lectures and the same preaching. If that you were able to sit still for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
It was very well franchised.
It sounds like it. Now, this part is pretty interesting. Now, Roland was the prophet at the time.
Yeah.
And it was understood in the community, in the entire church, that the prophet was never going to die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, how old was Roland at that time?
He was in his late 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was late 80s, and he'd had a stroke.
He had a stroke in 98.
And a lot of the stuff was that he was going to be renewed, right? He was going to be healed. And, if the people could be faithful enough and strong enough and, if they would be good enough, then he would be renewed.
Yeah.
And so
it seemed like in church, it was always turned back on the people. If we can be better, then he will be renewed. And
so when he has a stroke and he's deteriorating,
when you
see
him, it hurts him.
That's just so wrong, because you're looking at this guy who's getting old, who's not going to get any younger, and you're going, God, he doesn't look too good. And it's our fault.
As a grown-ass man, it seems really strange to think about my parents telling me this stuff. But when I'm 10 years old, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. That makes perfect sense. Thanks, Mom.
Well, most kids at that age are just now figuring out that there's no Santa Claus. So
yeah. Well, and that's the truth is like it really made you like scared. Like it instilled such a depth of fear of like, oh my God, we're never going to be good enough. And he's still getting old. And what are we doing? And we need to be better. And like, and it just became like the I don't know, the basic of everything of like, well, we got to do better so our prophet can get better, and just mind fucking for sure.
Yeah. No, you kind of had, you had your role as a male, a young man. How old were you at the time? Like the time that we're talking about right now with, ruling in power and.
Well, I think he started in 1985. So I'm sure there was like a church falling out back then, but I was born in 83, so I don't remember that. So I only started remembering things in the 90s. And by 1998, when he had a stroke, I was 13 years old. I think I might have been 14. I had kind of lost interest, if you will. I didn't lose interest because I felt a lot of shame, but I was rebellious. Like I would roll up my sleeves when I wasn't supposed to. I would even sneak off, go downtown and wear t-shirts, which was completely forbidden. If anybody saw me, I would have been in a lot of trouble.
Well, and then at some point you decided to have a drink every once in a while.
Yeah, so I got caught. I got a minor consumption at 13 years old. And that was, not only did I get a ticket that I had to go see a judge and talk to him about it, I had to go talk to one of the church leaders who happened to be my grandpa, on my mom's side. And then they had to take me out of their priesthood meeting for a little while and punish me. So it didn't help. I didn't really feel like repenting. I was just getting more and more negative at the time.
So what about you? And then what about your peers? Like the other kids that are your age? Are they going like, dude, what are you doing?
There was a mixture of everything. And there was always other boys that were going through the same thing that were just happy to have a party. So that's who I would gravitate towards. At the time, I guess.
Okay, I can believe that. Yeah. And then on the other hand, now this was another thing that I thought was very compelling about the whole culture of the thing was this thing from Roland that continued on that was the name of that docuseries, Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. That was beaten into you.
Oh, yeah.
And what was that? I mean, what was that like for you? Like just this entire philosophy. How did you feel about that?
Well, at the time, just like Cade says, it's all you know and it's everything. You're like, oh, I've got to keep sweet, right? I'm not going to question. And looking back now with the education I have now, I'm like, wow, that's some really good form of brainwashing, right? You're teaching kids, you're teaching adults how to not be in tune with themselves, how to just, you know what, put it on a shelf, don't think about it, keep sweet, pray and obey, and our prophet will be good. Don't ever question, just like put all your feelings aside and be sweet, right? And so that was like everything if you would complain or ask questions, or if you dared to speak up and, ask a question, it was like, well, just keep sweet, or, just put it on a shelf and God will answer all your questions when you get to heaven, and so it was like very just controlling. Like, we just don't want you to feel anything really. Just keep sweet, numb it with just being sweet, and then, move on. Don't question it. So
Now, were either of you in proximity to the prophet? Did you meet Roland?
Oh, multiple times, yeah.
We would go in there as a family and meet him every few months or so, just sit in his office, and he'd give, my dad direction or whatever.
It's so funny to look at now, because I'm like, wow, he was just an old man that had a stroke, and everyone was just sitting there staring at him. Like,
it was such a treat for anybody's family to get an appointment with the prophet.
Yeah, to just sit in his presence. And my parents would tell me, he knows everything. Anything in the world, you can ask him any questions, and he will answer them. And he knows, like, he is a direct mouthpiece of God,
what they said.
And so I would sit there like, oh my God, like, how does he know all these things, and I would sit there and try to rack my brain about, well, what questions do I have that I could ask him,
I can just see how this would play out, though, because you actually see him and like, he's supposed to be revitalized because everybody's so good, and then you see him and you're like, he doesn't look too funny.
Yeah, he can't even stand, and he's on oxygen, and I feel bad. In a way,
but for the man.
Yeah. Okay. So now, and then he passed away. How old were you when he passed away?
So he kind of passes away in the middle of our story a little bit.
There's a lot that
Right.
went on before he actually died for us.
Okay.
Because our marriage got arranged by him and the bishop in Canada, my uncle up there, Winston Blackmore. He was kind of the person who went back and forth with the prophet and asked him for direction. And he's the one who arranged our marriage and then got approval from Rulin before Rulin passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So we were supposed to be married. I was 15 and Cade were you 18 or 19?
I was 18.
You were 18. And then Rulin died.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were taught from birth, too, that the only person that can perform marriages is the prophet. And so we were both like, well, shit. Not only did he not get renewed, we're not married and he's dead. Like, this sucks. And so, that was kind of a pause on us as we were like, well, we were told who we're supposed to marry, which was kind of an anomaly there, too, because most people didn't know who they were going to marry until they walked into the room. So ours was kind of a little bit of an anomaly there. And so I knew I was going to marry him. I didn't know him. I had seen him at church. I knew who he was just in passing. And then Rulin dies. And then we're like, well, now what? Now, who's the prophet now? Because he was supposed to be renewed and he's not. And, now what do we do? And so that's when he died, is like September of 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Warren took over.
Yeah, in this weird way, like Warren and Winston had this feud, if you would.
Yeah, it was going on long before Uncle Rulin died.
Trying to buy for the next position, if you would.
Well, that's what it sounded like. In watching the docuseries, it sounded like he kind of made sure that he was ingratiated and self-groomed in order to take the seat.
Yeah.
So, okay, go ahead though. But I'm just trying to apply what I've learned to what you're telling me because it just makes it that much more interesting.
Yeah. So I guess if there's anything you want to talk about, just jump in. I can.
I'm probably going to back up just a little bit because we jumped from when I was 14 to getting married. A lot happened in those 4 years. I got sent to Canada on what they called a missionary program. And I wasn't the only one. There were several boys that their parents just didn't know what to do with them. They didn't want to throw them away, if you will, but they needed to give them a fresh start. And Winston, her uncle, who was the bishop in Canada, he had a great program at the time where he had these post crews where they needed workers, and there was no age requirement. You just go up and work on the post crew.
And exactly why? What was the exact reason that you were sent there? What?
Because I got that minor consumption and I got pulled out of priesthood meeting, and my father was just ashamed that his darling son did that. And it made such a bad name for the family because all the men would go to priesthood meeting once a month. And that's where the real things were learned and where the real accountability was for the church. And so he felt like he needed to do something. And there was other men sending their boys to Canada. So he figured that was a good idea. Me and one of my older brothers got sent up there.
Why did your brother get sent up there?
He actually wanted to go.
Oh.
He had a friend his same age. He was 3 or 4 years older than me. He had a friend that was there. Made it sound great. Got no parents. I do work all the time, but I have no parental oversight. And Winston was really nice about that too. He just gave us a fresh start.
Huh. So you got along with him pretty well.
Winston? Yeah, I think so. And eventually that's why he recommended me to get married, because after a few years of just working and minding my own business, and to be honest, I did a lot of things that I wasn't supposed to. I would sneak alcohol. I watched movies. I did all the things, but it just didn't make a big deal of it. And I still showed up at church. So
I was just better at hiding it.
Yeah. I wasn't the only one. Everybody was doing that. So there was just a lot less oversight for me in Canada. It wasn't that way for her family and for the people who were born there. But for us, what they called Yankee boys, who just lived in camp trailers and stayed on their post cruise.
Basically little orphans.
Orphans, yeah.
Why'd they call you Yankee boys?
I don't know. That's just the term that they gave us for Americans living in Canada as Yankees.
I think it had something to do with coming from the
we didn't
South
care.
or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Most of the guys didn't treat us very well, but to be honest, I didn't mind. I was happy to be out of my parents' house.
So that's all right. So where were you when you actually met, where you first saw each other?
We were in the community in Bountiful.
Okay.
So the first time we had seen each other in church. It's not like we didn't know who we were or interacted maybe, but after church one day in Bountiful, Winston pulled me in and said, "Hey, I think it's time. We're doing some weddings and you are going to be one of them. And also, the girl that I'd like you to go see is Ange, and you can go talk to her if you want," which was unheard of for me. Like the older brother that came with me in Canada, he got sent back to Colorado City and he met his wife in the room they got married in.
Yeah, that's why I say ours was a little bit different, and I'm not really sure why. Like it was.
Yeah,
I don't know
why
weird.
he allowed us to talk to each other.
So,
but she was 15 at the time.
Well, I don't know, maybe because
I think he was trying to get her excited because she had been in trouble with her parents, and he was just trying to give her something to do, something to be excited about.
So you knew who she was?
You vaguely.
And you knew who he was?
I had never met him.
Okay.
I had seen him in church. I knew he was the boy who wore a dark-colored suit that was different than everyone else's. And I had shook his hand once or twice, but never had a conversation, never introduced himself to me or anything. Yeah.
No, there were stories about people that were, somebody else other than the person that they actually liked were chosen for them to marry. Was there anybody else that, you thought you liked, or you're like, oh, I hope that I'm chosen, or I hope this person is chosen for me. Oh no, I got the guy in the funny blue suit instead. Or
I don't think I was at that point in my life. I was 18 years old. I had nothing to my name. I drove a company truck. I lived in a company house. I really felt like I had nowhere to go. But I was not going to say no to one of God's blessings.
Sure.
Because I had heard of guys that did that and they just get either forgotten about or they leave.
Yeah. And if you can't, if you refuse your first wife, you're probably not going to get
another one. Yeah.
Okay. So then what happened?
We did not initially get married because in the time that he told me that I could go see her, I took her out on a little Dairy Queen date and we went for a drive and it was super beautiful. And not more than a couple of weeks later, then Warren and Winston got in an argument. And Winston went down to Salt Lake and he came back and said, "I am no longer the bishop. And I'm not even following this church anymore." And so that shook everybody.
Yeah.
Because all of us believed, we believed in the prophet Roland Jeffs at the time. And they're like, without him, how are we going to go to heaven? Like, we're not going to have our salvations without him. And if you're leaving him, what am I supposed to do?
No, you're
so.
Well, and my uncle was quite esteemed. Like, he had 26 wives and he has a massive family and he was really high up in the church. And he was
I don't know if he's the owner, but he was the boss of the company that everybody in the whole town worked for.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
and he ran all of
if you can't associate with him, you don't have a job anymore and you don't have a house anymore. And you probably don't have a family anymore.
You're salvationless, twice removed.
Yeah. And if you listen to what Warren was saying, because he was heavy at the time, he was like, if you follow Winston, you are out. He straight up said the devil is controlling that man and you need to get away from him.
And things for the entire church changed quite a bit when Warren came to power. And that whole... And I know I'm kind of drifting from your story.
It's okay. Warren was building up to that. He had been doing it for years, building up to that. And most of us didn't really notice. But that meeting was the defining time when Winston left. So everybody in one day had to make a choice.
Interesting. Okay. And then, so going forward, big shakeup. And now your futures are...
Yeah. I called Warren because I didn't know what else to do. And he's like, yeah, you need to get away from him, go back to Colorado City, move back in with your father, and we'll decide what to do. And I, of course, said, okay, I will. And I didn't do it. I waited a couple of weeks. I had two other brothers that had moved up to the area as well in that time. And they both packed up and left.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still trying to think about it because I didn't have anything against Winston. And a couple of months before, he said, we're going to get married. And I talked to this sweet girl and I thought it was great. She wasn't talking to me now because her family was on one side and my family was on the other side. So there was a few months of limbo where I didn't know who to talk to.
Yeah. And I mean, you were always a touch rebellious anyway, but now
I wasn't excited about going back to my dad's house.
Yeah.
Even at 18, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do there.
Well, plus you're reaching some of your own conclusions too. Like, I don't have a problem with Winston. I don't want to leave. And I like this girl. I don't want to just go back to Colorado. And
yeah.
Yeah. Well, my family was like my uncle Winston, obviously, is my dad's brother. And so there was a lot of pressure from both sides for us, for my mom and dad's family, because my mom is Warren Jeff's aunt. And so very close to that family. And so very esteemed in the church and the Steed family, which Warren Steed Jeffs is his name. My mom is a Steed. And so there was the ties that were there that were pulling my mom. And then the ties with Winston that were pulling my dad. And they were going back and forth. And there was just so much turmoil. And me left in limbo too, where I'm like, well, again, shit. The prophet died before we could get married, and now what do I do, And again, I'm 15, so I'm like, well, I'm just going to go hang out with some friends and, be a little rebellious myself if I can. And yeah, I'm not going to talk to that guy anymore because I don't know him.
No, just to clarify, Uncle Rulon was still kicking when Winston left the church, and he died a couple of months later.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. So, okay, so how did you end up? Am I missing anything else?
No, well, I was getting to the point where I had made a choice that I was not going to move down. After I told Warren that I was going to, after I told my dad I was going to, I just decided one day, and I still know exactly, I remember that whole day because I got chills that whole day. I'm like, am I throwing away my entire salvation for this? Because it does not feel right for me to go back there. I don't want it. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to be one of the wicked, one of the destroyed.
Right. That must have been difficult. That must have been
it was super scary. And I remember sitting in my traco, digging away, working.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what am I going to do? And so I just kind of devised a plan. Like, I'm going to finish this week and I'm going to go up and I'm going to go talk to Winston. And I'm just going to ask him one-on-one. I'm going to barge in his office if I have to. And just ask him what he thinks, because I'd seen him talking to church. He was super friendly to me, and he's married to my sister too. So I kind of felt like I had a little bit of an in to just go talk to him. Mm-hmm. And when I did, he treated me like an adult. I was 18 years old, and he said, "Cade, you do whatever you want to do. If you want to move down, go for it. If you don't, you're a grown man." And it was like the most liberating thing I had ever heard at the time. Yeah. As an 18-year-old kid, like, well, I don't want to go. I just want to say that out loud. And he's like, well, you don't have to. I was like, what about my salvation? And he's like, do you really think that he is in control of your salvation? Like, you have your relationship with your own God and you get to choose.
And this is the first time you're ever hearing this.
Directly to me. Like, I'd heard all this stuff in church. We all had. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to stay for now. And then I guess that was that for then. I just went back to work. I was working for my uncle who had stayed on with Winston at the time too. So that made it easy too, because I didn't have to quit my job. Yeah. And start that over.
Yeah. So then what?
So a few months went by. That would have been it was in 2002.
That was like towards the end of 2002,
yeah,
I think.
We first dated in April of 2002. Couple of months later,
Rulon died in September.
So I guess right before that was when I had that talk with Winston.
We were supposed to get married, but as you saw on the Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, there was a lot of legal battles going on with the church where they were getting a lot of pressure from authorities, as they should have, but because they were getting more found out about the child brides. And so our marriage was delayed because they wanted to wait until I had turned 16.
We didn't know it at the time, but they were waiting for her to turn 16 because Elisa and Ruby were causing problems, the girls on that show.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right during that time.
Yeah.
So they had gotten married right before us. And then Ruby ran away, and her and her sister were causing drama in the media about the church.
As they should have.
As they should. Yeah, we only found this out later.
They're so brave.
But because of that, then Warren said, let's wait until the girl turns 16, this next one. So my older brother actually went down there and he got married with those guys because his wife-to-be, who was Ange's friend, was 16.
Mm-hmm.
So we were supposed to go together.
Yeah, so it was really weird. I don't know if they thought I was closer to 16 before or if that stuff all kind of happened after they had told us who we were going to marry. But our situation was very not normal for the church. Like most of their marriages were like, you're getting married this weekend. Here you go. Show up with your wedding dress and you'll get your bride or your groom in the office with the prophet, right? You walk in and you see who you're marrying. And so ours was quite different. But yeah, so we didn't really talk anymore throughout the rest of 2002. And I tried to do some like homeschool stuff because I was being a rebel. So I was doing a lot of home stuff and not going to school again. I cut my hair, which you can't cut your hair in the religion. The females can't. And so got pulled out of school for that. And yeah, very, very, rebellious. But
living on the edge.
But yeah, so then it was like early 2003, me and a couple of my cousins, actually Winston's daughters, were working on the same kind of post cruise where they would have us go just because there was really nothing else to do with the girls that weren't super interested in going to school or, getting married. And so we were doing posts, I'd say early 2003. And I had been getting lots of pressure from my parents back and forth of like, well, you need to get married. And I was, starting to take an interest in boys and like talking to some boys, which was hugely frowned upon and, just the worst sin ever. And so, being
none of them being him.
No, none of them being him. But they were just very much discouraged with what I was doing. And, I could not make anybody happy. And I just felt like the end of the world was happening because there was nowhere for me to turn. I had no options. School was never an option as far as like a higher education or anything. And I specifically remember one weekend, me and one of the girls were sitting there and we were like, made this plan that, well, if we get married, we can get married and then we can steal our trucks and then we can leave. We'll steal our husband's trucks and leave. And that's a good plan, and that's as far as our plan went, but it was, a solid plan.
So are we missing anything else before we get to the point where you actually got married?
I don't think so.
Yeah, not really. I guess I stuck around. I had made the choice not to go. So I went back to work for my uncle in North Idaho.
Right.
And just I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't want to give up on her, but I didn't know what was happening anyway.
So it finally comes about that you're going to get married, and you were married in a
laundromat.
In a laundromat.
Well, I'll start. Winston shook my hand in church one day and he said, hey, come see me. So it always means something's happening. So when I came to see him, he's like, hey, your girl, Ange, is ready to get married and she's still interested in you. Would you like to continue? And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So I still didn't own anything to my name, but
you at least had a job.
I had a job. Yeah. I had somewhere to live. The company owned it, but it was fine. So he said, well, we're going to get it set up for like a couple days from now.
It was like week.
She had went back to talk to Winston and basically turned herself in and said, I'm ready again. I'm ready now. And he was going to jump on that chance. So I think he set it up. I think it was like 2 days later or
it was
maybe
a
a week
couple
later.
days.
By the next weekend, he had everything set up. Her dad took her in there, got a marriage license. And then we did the formal wedding. Not the formal, like we did the legal wedding in the laundromat. Winston had an office in the back of a laundromat. So we did our wedding in the laundromat part of it, which is hilarious.
Very romantic.
Yeah. The dryer's going in the background.
We still didn't know each other. I mean, we had talked about it and we're like, okay, I guess we're doing this. We're getting married.
And I look back at that picture of you guys. I mean, you both look lost and scared.
Yeah.
Very. I think that, we were both very nervous and very scared and not knowing. And it was kind of a wild series of events because, like I said, me and my friend decided we're going to get married. We're going to go turn ourselves in. We're going to get married and we're going to steal these guys' trucks and leave. And so in the back of my head, I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Well, my friend bailed and decided not to get married the week that we were supposed to get married. And so it ended up like, I was like, well, shit. Do I just not get married again?
No, like, do I just steal one truck now?
Do I just do this myself? Do I have, what the hell, And so I was in this big turmoil because now he had already been told we were getting married. He was already super excited. My parents were already like, yeah, let's wash our hands of her and be done, And so like he said, it went really fast that we got married that weekend. And it was just like, now what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was feeling pretty revived in my testimony, if you will, even though I wasn't a part of Warren Church anymore. I was still going to church with Winston. It had been months, if not a year later. So I wasn't really feeling like I was going to go to hell because I wasn't following Warren. I'd already had the conversation with my dad, told him I'm not coming. And, he basically said, well, you're not a part of our family anymore. So that had all transpired and I'd kind of come to terms with it. But when Winston asked if I wanted to get married, in my head, I was like, oh man, God's given me a huge blessing. This is a huge upgrade in my status here. So I need to straighten up.
Yeah.
I better straighten up right now. So,
and plus it seemed like you felt like you had some new direction at that point too. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we got married that evening. They had a church wedding. It was beautiful. I mean, you saw the pictures.
Yeah.
We had no idea what we were wide-eyed. Still didn't know each other. And then, we went home. It was super awkward. And the next following days, I was just trying to be good. We need to go to church. We need to start doing good things. And we need to, clean up our act and clean up the way we dress. And maybe we should stop listening to the wicked music that we have. And
what was the wicked music?
Like Backstreet Boys.
And Shania Twain.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh.
We had it all.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I was in the exact opposite mindset where I was like, sweet, I'm going to get married so I can just rebel, right? And then he was like, no, we got to, clean up our act and go to church. And I was like, nah.
Why did you think that this was the time to rebel now?
Well, because I wasn't under my parents anymore. So I was like, my parents have no control over me. And he does. But I was like,
Yeah.
So here we are. We are 38 minutes into this. Here's question number 1. So you were both forced into marriage as teenagers, and that was kind of the word choice, forced, because you weren't dragged in there. You weren't given any other options either. There was no other plan. This is what you're going to do. So it didn't, to me, it seems forced. Looking back, what do you remember most vividly about the moment you realized that this wasn't love? This was another form of control.
Oh man, I think subconsciously, I would hope that I knew it was control the whole time, but I didn't, right? And so you're fighting what you've been taught, what's happening, circumstances, what's going on. One moment I think that stands out for me is the logging company had crew houses where the men would all go and they would stay there during the week, and the women would wait on them and take care of them and make the meals and do the laundry and everything. And my grandma was at one of them, and we were staying there shortly after we were married because it was like a few weeks. And she told me one day, she's like, well, when Cade gets home from work, you need to go and make sure you untie his work boots and take his work boots off. And, and I was 16. And I remember thinking, what the fuck? Hell no. Some stinky kid's boots? No way. I'm not doing that. And being like, Grandma. And she was like, no, you need to do that. And I remember thinking, well, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to be married. And just that moment was like, well, crap, what am I going to do? I don't want to be married. And just thinking, I don't know, what's the next steps? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it must have been difficult too, because neither of you had a lot of experience, but now you're married, and it's expected that you're going to share a bed, and
you would think there would be some kind of handbook or at least a parental figure that would give you some direction. I had absolutely zero.
Yeah.
All I knew is what other people had told me randomly, and nobody really talked about that. That was forbidden. So, as you can imagine, there was zero intimacy. It was just awkward. We laid side by side in bed from the night we got married on.
Yeah.
It was about too awkward, and I didn't want to hurt her feelings.
Sure.
I didn't want to be like, this is what we're supposed to do, because I didn't know what we were supposed to do. And
so what about did you kiss goodnight, or, was there, did you feel like you're getting to know each other? Okay, well, the things the kiss that you would normally get at some point while you're dating before you decide to get married.
I don't know. It may have happened. I don't remember even a single time. We kissed when we got married in the church wedding, and it was really weird. And I don't think we did. I don't think
we kissed again until in the lake later. I actually don't think we did.
Because we were together for maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
And I went to work one week, came home on the weekend, and all her stuff was gone. And that was the defining moment for me where I was just done.
Yeah. So backing up just a little bit, I think, Ange, you were the one that was a little bit more, because you were very... Sorry, let me jump back and forth. Cade, you were working, you were doing your thing. This is what the husband does. This is my role as a man, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And you were the one who started really questioning, what are we doing here? I have to take his stinky work boots off. I don't love this guy. I don't really know him. Why am I here?
Yeah. And I had felt something like a pull somewhere of there has to be more to this. I had always wanted to learn more and do more, and I'd been limited by the girls don't get to do that. You get married and you go build a house or you build a home and you have babies, and that's your goal. That's your purpose, is to do that. And then, build a family with them and wait on them and do whatever your priesthood head would like you to do. Literally, every single thing had to be approved through them. And that was really hard for me, because I was like, there has to be something more, there must be something out there. What about, I don't like this. I have no say. And so I did start to push back a lot, especially for Cade. Every time he would be like, we need to throw our CDs away, I'd be like, well, I'm going to go buy more, or if he would be like, we need to clean up our dress, I'd be like, show up in a tank top, and he'd be like, what the hell, he's trying to reform his good priesthood wife. And I was like, you know what? F this. This is not for me. And so then, he says, the one weekend he just showed up, and I was like, bye.
So what finally pushed you to escape? Was there a specific moment or a series of realizations I'm seeing the series of realizations, but what was the straw that broke the camel's back that you finally was like, that's it, I'm out of here?
I actually haven't thought of that. What was the exact moment that I was like, I'm done?
I think we had a pretty heated conversation the week before. I don't remember it specifically, but I remember being really uncomfortable. And then I had to go to work Monday, and I didn't get back till Friday night. And then came back and
Yeah,
stuff
I
was
don't-
gone.
I
So
don't
that was the
remember.
way that we communicated, is we just didn't.
Wow.
I don't remember like the moment, but I remember feeling the feeling of just like nothing I do, nothing I say, nothing that I've ever worked for, nothing that I'm doing is ever going to be good enough for him, for my family, for the church, for anything. And so I'm like, what is the point?
Mhm.
And so I felt just complete despair. Like, I'm never going to be good enough. It's not going to work. I'm not going to do this.
Mhm.
I'm going to go back to my parents' house. And yeah, so I moved back to my parents' house, and that right there was just immediate shame, right? Because you do not do that. Like, you stay with your husband. Doesn't matter if your husband's abusing you. Doesn't matter what's going on. Like, the church didn't care. They wanted you to obey your priesthood head, and you guys could work on it together and figure it out. Like, you could figure anything out. You were placed together by God, and that was what should happen. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. And so when I moved back to my parents' house, it just became like this big turmoil between my parents and me. And like, how could you do this? And just shame, 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 shame every day. Like, you need to go back to your husband. And then the same thing with all around the community. Cade was getting the same kind of like, oh man, you can't keep control of your wife. Shame on you, dishonor, And so that was the general thing. And I got so sick of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like everywhere I turn, there's just people being like, putting their arm around you and being like, it's okay. You can do this. Just, pray harder and fast more, or,
Be sweeter.
be
Yeah.
sweeter. And it just was like, nobody is actually listening to me. Nobody's actually validating or caring or seeing what I'm talking about. And it doesn't matter. And so it wasn't long after that my parents took me to my aunt's house.
Yeah. Well, the defining moment for me was when I came home and her stuff was gone. It was like it just hit me
Absolutely.
that day.
So this is interesting because this is now with this divergence. This is
Yeah.
it was a very dark period for you.
Yeah.
But it was a period of probably immense growth for both of you.
Mhm.
So you came home.
I came home.
Everything was
Stuff
gone.
was gone. Probably cried for an hour or whatever, and I called Winston on the phone and said, I need to come talk to you. Where are you? Like, are you in the community, in the area? And he says, I'm actually in my office. So I went and talked to him right then and there and said, I need to leave.
Can I ask you something real quick,
Yeah.
though? Why were you crying? Did you cry because you missed her and you felt you loved her and you wanted her back, or because you felt like
and I just felt like a failure
yeah.
for everybody that I was trying to please, Winston, God, my
Mhm.
parents who I hadn't talked to. Like, I felt like I was doing my best and it
Mhm.
just wasn't working.
Yeah. So now, both of you feel you have both expressed
Yeah.
the same thing. Like
Mhm.
both
Yeah.
of you felt like no matter what I do, it is not good enough.
Yeah. So
you went to Winston.
I
and
went to
said,
Winston and said, I want to leave for a couple of months. Just let me take a break. I got a friend I know in Salt Lake City, so I can go down there for a little while and I'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, you do what you need to do. Obviously, you're a man. I can see, I know that you guys haven't really been getting along and it might do you some good. And I was like, I don't feel like chasing her anymore. I feel like I've chased her for 6 weeks while we were together. And I just chased her around and it's like, we need to be better together. And I was exhausted from it.
Yeah.
And I did not make it easy. I will tell you, I was a 16-year-old little rebel brat that.
So you're pretty normal 16-year-old.
Pretty normal.
Apparently.
About the same as I was when I was 16.
Yeah.
About the same as our 16-year-old.
I'm 3 years older than her. So, between those 3 years, I had matured just a little bit and I had been given this gift, which was the greatest thing ever.
Which was this wife that wouldn't obey me.
It wasn't, to me, I don't think I was trying to get her to obey me. I was just trying to get her to understand the grander picture of our salvation that we're building, that we're working for. Like, this is the life, but this isn't the afterlife is the life. Like, right, the next level is the level that we're trying to get to.
It's just not fair. All I wanted was to get a wife, and then I get one that won't listen.
Anyway, back to my talk with Winston. I knew I was lying straight up. I remember walking out of his office and I was like, I am never coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Never, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I went straight home and I threw there was a dumpster there, and I threw all my long underwear and all my clothes that I didn't want, everything, a bunch of my furniture, stuff that I didn't want. I just threw it all in the dumpster, filled that thing clear full. And then a friend of mine was heading down that night, and I disappeared. I just jumped in the back seat and left.
Wow.
So
hasta lasagna.
Yep, pretty much.
And then where'd you go? What'd you do?
I went to Salt Lake City. I had another friend down there that helped me get a job and a place to stay. And so I just started there doing the same thing, doing excavating work. And, I go out to Hot Topic on the weekends and buy more T-shirts, baggy pants. And I just started my life as a true wicked apostate.
Mm-hmm. And fully embraced it.
Fully embraced it. I bleached my hair. Super cool. I wore earrings for like 4 days and they hurt. All the things. I will tell you that I wasn't interested in other girls. That was just like completely taboo. We had never been intimate, and it was still not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't ready to go there yet, but outwardly, I was ready to just look the part and stop trying to appease the church.
Yeah, and it was traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened? So then, what significant events took place before you?
We figured out how to talk to each other.
Yeah.
We went a few months not talking. She called me one time because she had a car that her dad had bought her, and I paid it off. I paid like the last $1,000 or whatever. And she called me because her dad took her car away.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't talked to her in months, and she's like, "Can you just tell him to give me my car back?" And I was like, "No, you're not talking to me. I want him to give me that car."
It was not nice. And I was like,
you only called because you wanted something.
Yeah, you only called because you wanted something. And we did not communicate at all.
Mm.
A few months later, she'll tell you that she had been sent to her aunt in Oregon. And then for some reason, she decided to come and pay me a visit while I was there. And I think it was to come talk about getting a divorce because we were legally married in Canada.
100% was. That was my aunt was like very encouraging of, well, let's get a divorce and let's get this figured out so that you can move on with your life, right? And she was, so I went to my aunt's house. My parents took me down there. I never met this aunt before. My parents just dropped me off there. She had left the religion like 20 plus years prior, but I'd never met her ever. And so that was very stressful for me to just show up but she had, she was going to help me out and take me in for a minute. And one of the first things on her agenda was, let's get you divorced. Like, you're going to need to figure this out. I couldn't sign up to go to school. I couldn't do anything because Cade was my legal guardian. And so I didn't want to talk to him. And so she was like, we need to pay him a visit and get you divorced. And so we went to Salt Lake to do that. She has some family there. So we went to Salt Lake, and I was like, knew Cade was there through his sister. She had always tried to drop me little hints and drop me little things. She really wanted us to be together. And so I knew he was there and looked him up, and he came and picked me up in this big Dodge truck, with his bleach hair and his...
It was finally cool.
And we actually went, and I don't think we talked about getting divorced at all. We just like chit-chatted about everything, including like Metallica and the bands he had found and was listening to. And, he was showing me all these cool music. And I think we like kind of bonded over something that wasn't religion. Yeah. And I didn't feel like he was trying to...
It was still really awkward, but it was the first real conversation. And I had fully embraced that I'm going to hell and I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her that, I had gone to a Godsmack concert and how cool it was.
So what was it like for you seeing her?
I don't know. I didn't know what to expect. So we just kept it on the surface. I guess both of us were waiting for the other one to say, hey, what are we doing? And neither of us did. In that time.
Yeah, not at that time. It was months later. Because then we chit-chatted on the phone a few times. And then we were just kind of like, well, neither one of us would really bring it up or have any, like, are we going to do anything? Are we going to talk to each other? Are we going to, like... It was months later before we actually saw each other again in person.
Mm-hmm.
But
But you never did get a divorce.
No.
Nope.
We didn't. No divorce.
Yeah. Her cousin, who is Winston's daughter, started dating one of my friends that was with me in Canada, and he had moved. He was in the Salt Lake area as well, and St. George as well. So they started going out together, and Ange was her friend. So I actually went to Canada a couple of times just for the fun of it, to go with him while we were married, but separated, not planning on seeing her at all. But that started the chain of events that actually made us talk to each other one more time.
My best friend, Kate, she was like, I've been hanging out with Cade, and he's actually kind of cool. And I was like, don't even talk to me about him. Like, I was like, I don't even want to hear it. Like, I was so like, don't even bring him up. That's so yesterday. Like, I'm moving on. And she just was relentless with it. And she just she hung out with him and her now husband, DC. And that's one of Cade's best friends. And she just kept being like, well, just come hang out with us, and I was like, oh my God, like I've already been there, done that.
Not really.
No.
Yeah. A few times now.
No.
So you relented.
Yeah. So relented one time. Cade and DC had come up to Canada actually for July 4th. Was July 4th? Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. It was July.
It was July 4th.
It was a holiday weekend.
So
all right.
They came up to Canada for July 4th, and Kate was like, you have to come down to Sandpoint with us. And, we're just going to go hang out with the boys. And it was super weird. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll come down there. But I had decided in my head, I was like, well, if I'm going to talk to him and I'm going to see him, then maybe I'll just see if we can give it another shot, because the worst thing that can happen is we can get divorced. And we really already need to do that. So that's worst case scenario for us. So,
and to be clear, you clearly have nothing to do with the church. And at this point, you didn't either.
Nope, I didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
The difference is my family excommunicated me completely. They said, you're not part of this family anymore. You can't even come here. Her family was okay with her showing up.
Even though they were very disappointed.
They were very disappointed.
They were very ashamed of what I was doing, but they were still okay with it.
I was truly on my own. And she still had a few friends and family that would shame her every time they saw her.
Yeah. So, I want to back up just a little bit, because you've moved on. You've kind of recovered. You're finding yourself. You're kind of found your groove, and your look, and your music, and everything else. But that was an extremely difficult and dark period for you, and I know it was painful. And I don't want that to get. I don't want that to get swept away, because.
Oh, it was really hard. I did a lot of stupid stuff. I drank. I did drugs. I did all the things that you're not supposed to do. But I just felt like nothing mattered anymore.
And was there a time that you did, that was escapism. You did things to cope with how you were feeling.
Yeah, I was 19 at the time. I wasn't even old enough.
So was there a time that you came to terms with it? You actually dealt with the things that you were feeling?
With my salvation and all the church stuff?
Not even that. Just, the feelings of loss and failure and all that stuff.
I think by the time it came around to that it was time to start dealing with that, we had actually started talking again in that amount of time. So that's another year of us being married. Married in May of 2003, and it was now July of 2004. So we had been separated for about a year. And we vaguely knew what each other was doing. We both had mutual friends. It's not like we weren't aware of where the other one was. We just weren't communicating.
So, and these are the things that I find this interesting. When those little breakthrough moments, when you started to communicate, when you started to genuinely like each other and develop feelings for each other and think,
there was a huge breakthrough, because the day that she showed up, and she'll tell you, she shot her shot. Like, she had bracelets made that said, "I love you," and Cade and Ange forever on it. After our year of separation, she was like, "Is there any way that we can try this again?"
Really?
And it's a funny story because she cornered me in a bedroom, and our friend Ruthie, I love her so much, she kind of adopted me. She was one of Winston's wives, but she was super sweet to us. She was banging on the door the whole time saying, "Cade, don't you talk to her. That girl is bad news. She's no good for you. She's broke your heart enough times."
It's so funny because the tables just turned, and we actually ended up letting Ruthie left the church and lived with us after we had been together for a couple years, and she moved in with us. And Ruthie's one of our dearest friends, but she was so relentless. She was like, "Cade, don't you listen to her. She's bad news. I need to take a shovel and bury her out back," and like was just like screaming at me as I'm like trying to get up the nerve to like tell Cade.
If there was ever a defining moment where I had to make a choice fast, that was it, because I'm just like.
So why the big turnabout though? I mean, like, so the bracelet, like, oh, now you want to be together again.
Yeah. Well,
she was shooting her shot. Like I said, she had ran out of options anywhere else.
Oh.
To a good point, yeah. And I was talking a lot with Kate, who's my best friend again, and she was just like telling me all these good things about Cade. And, a lot of them were things that I was excited about, like, hey, he's not in the church anymore. He's not going to try to make me be somebody I'm not anymore. Maybe he'll accept me for who I am. And it was honestly, I'm going to go all in or I'm going to go all out. And I'm going to see if that he'll do this. And if we don't make it work, like I said, we'll just get divorced, we'll just not.
This just occurred to me. If you were left, like, all external forces aside, like all this stuff in the church, all the fear, all the control, all the lessons of keep sweet and pray and obey and all those things, and these other people, like one person who's in your ear all the time, "Oh, you got to give him a chance. You got to give him a chance." And you're like, "I don't have to do shit." And then on your side, you got Ruthie going, "Stay away from her. She's bad news." Like, if you stripped everything away, all of the noise and all of the bullshit, what do you think would have happened? I mean, what do you think would have happened if between the two of you, or if you were just left the fuck alone?
I think the same thing, because I'm thinking about that moment in the bedroom, and we're trying to have a real conversation, probably for the first times in our lives, and there's still noise coming from the actual noise. So I think in that moment, that was when we had to do exactly what you're saying, is we had to just drown it out as much as we didn't want to, and be like,
and
okay,
decide and decide.
We're both here. We've been all over the country, and in the last 2 years, it's been a huge mess. We're both sitting here staring at each other right now. What are we going to do?
Well, and I do think, like, Cade had always been kind to me. Always. He had never been, besides the one phone call when he was a little rude, but otherwise he had been so genuine and kind and calm and just a steady. And I never ever was like scared of him or like felt unsafe in his presence. And so even throughout our time when we were married, if you would, I didn't hate him. I just wasn't in love with him,
Potentially right guy, but very, very wrong time.
Yeah. And he had always been kind. And so I think underneath it all, there was this little bit of like safety and security that I felt with him.
Sure.
That even gave me that beginning of like, well, maybe this could work, And then he took his shirt off. So
yeah, after being in a full-on apostate for a year.
So he was tan and buff. And I was now almost 17. So no, I was 17.
Yeah.
17. So.
Well, we had made that choice. Like I said, we had that conversation. She gave me the bracelets, and I was just letting out a deep sigh. I'm like, okay, let's try this again. I actually don't have anywhere for you to live. I'm still living in someone else's room in St. George, working in Vegas now, and we can start having conversations. So, okay, we'll go from here.
Yeah.
And then we went out that day, went down to the lake, and then we basically, that was the first time we ever like kissed or had any real intimate moment at all, where we actually looked at each other and was like, I actually like you.
Well,
and this feels really nice.
And I think it was that we both chose it in that moment. It was a choice at that time.
And that is huge.
It wasn't that somebody was telling us to do it. In fact, everyone was telling us not to do it or don't, or, there was so much outer noise. But I think it was in that moment that it was our choice. And we were like making that choice, and it felt good to make a choice together.
Yeah.
So now, how do you define love and partnership and consent in your own words without the influence of the cult? And I'm calling it,
You can call it a cult. You can call it a cult.
Okay, because I guess that's, when I wrote
we didn't like that word as kids, but it has every characteristic of a cult.
Well, because they didn't want to be told what they were. So the question is, how do we define love?
Yeah, because the church, like the way the church laid it out for you, this is love. You take off his boots and you cook his stuff. And
well, I explained a defining moment where we decided that we were going to try it again, and we did, but there was still a lot of figuring stuff out. After a few days later, when I actually just moved her down in with me, and that's a whole nother funny story, but we had more conversations. I remember driving along and just trying to express, like, I want to figure out what we're actually going to do now, because I got to go to work, and I just want to make sure that that I'm not going back to church. Yeah. I remember that conversation really well. And it was one of the first really good, constructive couples conversations we've ever had. Like, I don't know what you have in your family, but I'm still excommunicated, and I have no intention of ever going back. So if you want to do that, you should probably let me know before we get even closer. Mm-hmm. And we were real careful. Like I said, there was no intimacy before, and we were like super careful about it even then, because I don't think either of us wanted to get our hearts broken again.
Right.
No, and I think like what we were taught as love and respect in the religion was so different than what we wanted our relationship to look like. And that, I feel like, has taken a lot of work and a lot of us working together and looking at each other and having so many difficult conversations of, well, this is the way we were taught, but this is the way we want it to be. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of unlearning for me in just like simple things like making decisions, because I was taught that the man made the decisions and I needed to run everything by him. And so for me to make like even simple decisions was hard, because I'd never been given that right to make those decisions. So for a lot of time, I would ask Cade, well, will you just tell me what to do so I know what to do, because I don't know what to do. And it would irritate me, but he'd be like, you just need to make that decision and I'll support you. And I'd be like, fuck, like, just tell me, because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make a decision, So there was a lot of that, and just learning how to love and respect each other as equals instead of the patriarchy of like, I needed to worship the ground he walked on and take his boots off. It's been a lot of work, and a lot of work on his part and my part of like relearning and teaching our kids like what that looks like, and trying to model a healthy relationship for them, and looking at, we take a lot of examples of what we don't want to be and we apply it to, well, how are we going to not do that? Mm-hmm.
So what role has therapy or community or faith played in your healing process? Because I feel like there was a lot of healing to do. I mean, to grow up living in fear, being controlled, fractured relationships, being, thrown out by your family, continued disappointment that nothing's ever good enough. How did you heal from that?
I don't have a straight answer. I think we're still working on that.
Yeah.
I think that it's, we're always going to be working on it, because there's so much depth to it that so many things can trigger it, right? Even writing my book, I had an extreme anxiety attack, and I was just like, I couldn't really even process it, because I was like, there's so much that triggers the feelings of just not being good enough and the doubt and all of that. Therapy, we've done a lot of therapy. We've done a lot of self-therapy where we've read a ton of self-help books and a ton of trauma books, and we spend a ton of time in nature, and that's been one of our biggest things for us. We mountain bike. We love doing that. We love doing that together. And we've just tried to set time aside for our relationship and ourselves. I mean, we can always get better at that. But as far as community, we've had some friends that obviously have left and along the same timelines, but everybody's on their own journey and everybody has different ways of processing and different steps in their healing of where they're at. And sometimes those align with where we're at and sometimes they don't. And it's hard to see our friends do different things and, go down paths that we're like, oh, that's not going to be good. Or, and so I think for us, we use a lot of examples of what we don't want to do and try to form ourselves into what we want that to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I don't expect that we're ever going to feel fully healed in our entire lives. But the thing that I'm looking forward to is that our kids don't have to feel it.
Sure.
And that ends up being whatever therapeutic conversation that we have ends up something like that. We're always going to have these triggers. We're always going to have these memories. And they're probably not so bad because we don't really feel it anymore. We just are aware.
I hope, and you telling me that, I mean, just my own personal thoughts, that I hope that at some point those triggers just become memories, that these are not things that control, they don't cause panic attacks.
It's my way of coping too, because I still wish I had parents.
Yeah.
I'm always going to wish that. And I don't know how else to feel better about it than to just say my dad's probably going to die in his ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I have tried for years. We have both tried to reach out. There's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even really following Warren anymore, but there's no relationship. He is set in his ways.
It's just not authentic. And it's the same thing with my parents. Like they're there and they'll talk to me, but the depth of their conversations is about that big.
Their trauma is their own, and I got to respect them for it. And it doesn't do me any good to try and create some new type of relationship.
Right.
And I could just be spending that energy in my own kids. We have 3 kids.
Well,
and they need us.
And that's what we take a lot of pride in that. And that's one of the things that we both focus on a lot is our kids aren't going to have to feel this. We're going to be the best grandparents we can. We are going to provide education for our kids. We're going to provide a better life for them. We're going to focus on what we can control because we can't go back and give our kids grandparents and give our kids, the things that we wish we would have had. We can't go back and get that for ourselves. And so we just have to take it and we focus heavily on our kids and building the life for them and realizing that you can change it in one generation if you decide to get up and do something about it.
Absolutely. Well, good for you. So growing up and being so heavily influenced by a community and a religion where they say, God said this, God said that, and you have to do this or you'll go to hell. And, everything turns out that God didn't say those things and God didn't want that. What are your thoughts now on God?
Ooh, that one is hard for me. I have lots of thoughts about it and I've went over it a million times and it's so hard to explain when the fear and the depth of pain is all tied to God from birth, where every single thing you were taught, you were shamed for not being good enough because God doesn't this and God doesn't that and God this and God will never be proud of you because of this. And it's so hard for me to see the good in God because of all of the bad that was taught around it. And not on purpose. I don't think that my parents tried to teach that God was bad or tried to shame that God would, I just don't think that was the purpose of it. I think they were trying to teach that God was good and he wanted you to be good and all these things. So it's really hard for me because I believe there's a higher power and I believe, in doing good and being good and that, good karma and good energy. And I just don't know about God. It's hard for me. So.
Same here. I just don't know. And I don't think anyone should be ashamed to say they just don't know. Just say that. I don't know.
Same with anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very liberating.
If it makes you feel good inside to have a church community, go for it.
Right. Yeah. And I full on support that. And I think that people that want to believe in God and do that, I love that for you. The part that I have the hardest part with is when people use God to do crime and to do bad things and to control other people and to shame people and to put people in situations that are so unhealthy and to say, like, God wants you to do this. Like, you can't tell me that God wants a child to get married when they're 16 and to be a multiple wife and to be put in those positions where they don't even know what's going on. And I know for a fact, I know several of my friends that were raped on their wedding night because the men didn't stop, and they didn't listen and they didn't respect them. And that was what they were taught to do, is that on your wedding night, you go do this. And the poor girls had no control or no say in it. So it's hard for me when I see people use God's name like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, if there is a God, and, I'd like to believe there is. If there is, I don't believe that that's part of his plan. And so it's hard to sort out what could be right and what could be wrong, besides just going with your gut. So I'll support anybody as long as it's not harming anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I'm open to other ideas.
So why did you decide to speak publicly? And what impact do you hope that your story has on other people still trapped in similar systems?
For me, I last year created a business called Glimmers, and I was sitting there. We were trying to decide the name of our business, and I wanted something that meant a lot to me, and I wanted it to be the opposite of bad, and glimmers are the opposite of triggers in trauma. And one of my therapists told me that, and it's getting a little more popular. You can see it everywhere. But when I started thinking about glimmers and how I was going to talk about why it meant so much to me, I was like, I'm going to have to get brave enough to start sharing our story. And we started working with our business coach, and he was talking to us a little bit about it, and he was just in awe because we were telling him about our story. And he was one of the ones that also inspired us to, get a little more vocal about it. And we've wanted to write a book for years. We've talked about it. We've toyed with it. We've started it. It's sat there, and we've just been, dragging our feet on it because it's a lot of work. But I think just that little push of, hey, you could inspire a lot of people if you would talk about this. And there's a lot of people out there who have gone through similar or can relate to it or would be encouraged by it. And so we got a little bit braver, I think. How about you, babe?
I'm the same way. And I feel so bad for the people that are still doing it, still stuck in that mindset. And it's still happening today. There's thousands of people, most of them which I know that I'm related to, that are still doing it.
Well, not only are they still doing it, but there's still people out there that are taking their guidance and their orders from Warren Jeffs, who's sitting in prison.
It's terrible. And he's not the only one doing it. They've split off into multiple different groups. Each one is just as goofy and controlling as the last one.
Yeah, every single one of them claiming to be the chosen one. And it's like, well, there can't be 3,000 chosen ones. So,
when we first started talking, then one of the main mottos of our church was, if you don't understand something, put it on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And that bothered me as a kid. And I just want to put out there to the masses that you should never put anything on the shelf. If you don't understand something, you should try to understand it. And if you don't like it, you should leave.
Yeah.
You should find some answers.
You should find some answers.
Yeah.
And if you don't like those answers, you should tell that person that you don't like those answers.
Have you faced any backlash or fear from former FLDS members or leaders for telling your truth?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people that aren't going to like it.
There are. My own family. I'm sure my mom's not going to appreciate it at all, but she probably won't hear it. So
we should put it on the shelf.
Yeah, I'm sure that my family won't be excited either when they hear it, but that's okay. It's my story to tell.
Absolutely. So. Yes, it is. And what do you want outsiders or people who've never experienced high control religious groups to understand about what it's like to grow up in one? And I I think you kind of already explained that. And I thought that was very, very well put. But
I think it's important to understand that you can't just go up and tell someone who's in the FLDS or any one of these little religions or cults. You can't just go start spouting off knowledge and telling them how wrong they are, because they are so convicted in their beliefs. It's become real to them. They have trained it into their very soul, what is real to them. And it has to be an experience that they have on their own for them to change their mind. And we just explained like 3 or 4 year long process that happened to us. And if that hadn't happened, chances are I'd probably still be there.
Yeah. And it is so hard to put it into perspective, the depth of the teachings, because even like there's still things that we question each other. Oh, is that something we were taught, or is that something we actually believed? Is that something we, just for example, like swimming on Sunday, we were taught you can't swim on Sunday. And it had been years since we'd been out of the church. And Cade was like, we should go to the lake. And I was like, it's Sunday. We can't go to the lake. And he was like, we can. And I was like,
most definitely go to the lake on Sunday.
And I was like, no, we can't swim on Sunday. And it was like, oh, actually we can. We can swim on Sunday and it's okay, but it's just like stuff like that that's so ingrained and so in depth that you're doing automatically because you were taught, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to have somebody, if I could say one thing to anybody that was looking at it, is I would just say, just be compassionate, because what they are doing, they don't even know why they're doing it, because that's what they're taught.
Yeah.
And they're actually brainwashed into it. It's not that this kid has been given any other choices than to wear the long dress and to, act the way they're acting. They've been taught that since birth. And so to have compassion for that, because that was really hard to come out of.
Yeah. Well, Jesus actually did say that, apparently. Forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Right. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about your business.
Yeah. So my business is called Glimmers Clothing. And my goal with it was to create clothes that sparked joy. And so one of my gifts, I feel like, is that I've been an optimist for most of my life. And I've just been able to find joy even through a lot of the hard things. And so that was my goal with this, was creating a business creating a clothing line that could spark joy. So we had our little Mia, and I found bamboo clothing and I loved it. And people would ask me all the time if I designed her clothes because they're very unique. And I was like, no, I bought them. And it took me a couple years before I was like, why am I not designing her clothes? Like, I'm very artistic and I can do this and I can draw and I can. And so last year we started this journey, I guess in December of 2023. And I started just creating some patterns and stuff on the iPad and drawing. And then I reached out and found some manufacturers and got samples and just started diving into the depths of it. And it has just transformed into this most amazing thing where we have been able to provide pajamas for the Glimmers of Hope Foundation, which is a childhood cancer foundation. We provided pajamas and matching doll pajamas for Christmas, for their 23 days of Christmas.
Okay.
And we've just donated a ton to the childhood cancer community. And it's just so near and dear to my nurse heart and my mama heart. And we've now been helping some of the IVF community, so the infertility community. June is National Infertility Month. And so we've been focusing on that. And we did a print that has like pineapples, which are the IVF symbol. And so we've been reaching out to some of the IVF community there and donating, and it's been fun. But it's really, really pushed us to reach out and, be more, I guess, and share more about our story and the reason behind it. So
yeah, and she's created an awesome online community of people who are just looking for good things in their lives.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're going to go on Shark Tank?
We're not inventing anything.
Not inventing anything new. I
actually don't want any outside investors because then they have control.
No, I'm pretty excited though, because this month, so July, I just barely am dropping our first licensed collaboration, which is Precious Moments. So I got licensing with Precious Moments and am doing a licensed drop where I have their artwork on our pajamas. So,
nice.
Very cool. That drops in July, and we're pretty excited about that. So,
well, this has been a really cool interview. I've really enjoyed spending time with you.
Are you wrapping it up?
Well, I was just going to say,
It's all good. We could go
if
for
there's
a whole nother hour on what we did after we had our first kid. But it's okay.
Okay. Well, we're at about an hour and a half. But
Sweet.
is there?
No, I could sum it up real fast. I mean, we put ourselves through school, like we said at first. We didn't make it through grade school, let
Right.
alone high school. So we both went back, got our high school equivalencies. She went through nursing school. She's now got a master's degree. She's got experience all over the place. I fly helicopters for a living. It was not easy.
I guess that is kind of an important part of the story.
Yeah, is that we kept going.
Yeah.
We didn't stop, and we did all of that with 2 young kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because thinking about it now, yeah, you said 7th grade.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah,
And now you're flying helicopters.
right. There's a gap there.
Yeah, that's a big gap.
Yeah.
That's I was I'd like to point that out to any of the Marines that I was in with that were flying helicopters. That just goes to show that
Yeah.
and Ange, you're a nurse, right?
Yeah. So I work in labor and delivery and deliver babies, and I've loved it, and it's been amazing.
Now, and what was the extent of your formal education?
So I finished 9th grade, and then I was pulled out in the beginning of 10th for, chopping my hair off. So after we got together, it was like a year or so after, then I actually walked into a college and I said, how do I go here? And
Same here.
And they said, well, you got to send us your transcripts. And I was like, well, I don't have any of those.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're like, well, you're going to need to apply for FAFSA. And I was like, well, I don't know what FAFSA is. So can you please teach me? And they were like, you're going to need your parents' signature because you're under 25. And I was like, well, we're not going to get that. So anyway, so I had a lot to learn, but I just started from there. And
how did you get past that though? They obviously relented and let you in.
Yeah, so I had to get some different signatures, and there's actually a foundation in Salt Lake that one of the former members of the FLDS created called the Diversity Foundation, and they help the kids who have left FLDS start school. Mm-hmm. And so they helped me with some of my first tuition to get through nursing school. And so I reached out to them, and they were amazing, and did that, and then did my bachelor's in 2017 and my master's in 2020. And yeah, I've just figured to just keep going with it and get an education regardless of our start. So
yeah.
And
then to our middle school dropout, how did
I didn't do much until after we had once we had our first kid, I knew we had to grow up. And we had to get our first real house together. And by the time that she had finished nursing school, she got her first job as a nurse that basically equaled my wage as a construction guy. We had a choice to make. So we could either build a house and settle down, or we could start over. And I could not let it go. Every time somebody flew over me, I could not handle it. I was one of those guys that just, my whole body would clench up and be like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be an old man and I'm going to be angry about it. Yeah. I have to do this. So we sold everything and started completely over, moved to Las Vegas, and I started flight training. We had some money saved up, but not near enough, and we scraped and saved for 2 years.
Wow.
Yep, and I worked 2 jobs at 2 different hospitals so that we could make ends meet and still pay for the flight training. So,
and that's not cheap.
It was not cheap. And we still, by the time I was done paying for it, we were drowning in debt and just had to keep going anyway.
Like, hopefully this is worth it. Hopefully this is worth it.
So was it always helicopters or did you?
Just helicopters. It was good. I thought about being an airline guy, but then I realized early on that you needed a degree. Most of them wanted you to have an aviation degree. And I'm like, well, I'm just a dumb guy. So I'm not going to be able to do it. I could do it, but I started a semester of college just to see if I could get some funding for it. And I realized that I could do it. I got A's and everything, but it wasn't near enough money in a short enough amount of time for me to keep training. So I had to stop doing that. And by the time I realized what training entailed, then I just had to quit completely. I quit my other job completely and just focused on it full time. And I was 7 days a week. When I wasn't training there, I was sweeping floors and cleaning bathrooms and begging for a job. So by the time I was certified, they let me start flying tours, and I just worked my way in. I didn't have any other options.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you fly, what do you fly now?
I fly for Life Flight Network, air medical company.
How long have you been with them?
2 years?
Yeah.
2.5.
Oh, almost 3.
I've been doing air medical for 7 years now. I worked for another company in Arizona before.
Nice.
I did 2 years in the Grand Canyon as well. So, I mean,
Flying
flight
tours
training
down there.
We started in 2014 when we moved and started over.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Now, you mentioned, you touched on it a little bit, that how your parenting style has been influenced by the things that you experienced. And
it's a work in progress because we're all parents. You know how your head gets heated up when your teenager says something back to you and how you want to respond. And we do self-therapy a lot. Like how we pregame a lot. Even still, like, what are we going to do today? What is my teenage son going to say to me today that's going to set me off, that I'm going to prepare, and I'm just going to absorb it because it's not his fault.
Yeah.
Or that, like, I shouldn't have to suppress his feelings just because I don't like what he said. So I'm hoping that it works. And I still believe it does. We have a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they both hug me and say, "I love you, Dad." So that's way more than my dad ever got from me.
Well, here's my grand parenting advice. There's no way that you're going to raise a kid without making a mistake.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is that you show up and you do.
Our boys they're as tall as me now. We consider them adults now. And as much as we don't like that they got to watch us struggle, we're happy that they did now, because they were little boys when we were in school and we were broke and they were just bored all the time. We put them through a homeschool one year, so they never left the house while we were both going and doing our training and going 100 miles an hour, and they just sat there.
Wow.
I mean, they didn't just sit there. We had a pool and they played and they had a good childhood. But we look at it and we're like, dang, we didn't get out with them as much as we do now. But they get to go out with us now, and they mountain bike, and, they have a good time. So I think that we get to make it up to them now.
I'm actually proud now that they got to see us struggle a little bit and succeed.
Yeah. Good. Because that way they know that things can be difficult. That there are struggle out there, that everything isn't just super
Because
easy.
now my oldest son, he's 19. He's as old as I was when I got married.
Yeah.
And he's in college. He doesn't have any responsibilities.
So they must know all of this, right?
It's a great story for them.
Yeah.
But we try hard not to include the feeling.
Sure.
We do share with them, and we've started opening up with them a little more now that they're more adult-like and can have those comprehend those conversations. And there's some times where they're like, "Why do you even talk to your parents still?" Or they'll say stuff like that I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know. Or maybe I don't, but they'll just be like, "I can't believe they treat you that way." And, just stuff like that. But we try to not transfer the emotions, if you would, onto them, and just let it be a story, because they shouldn't carry that.
Sure.
So, but we do the best we can.
Well, yeah, and I think you guys are doing great. I mean, that's an awesome story, and you had an awful lot you had a lot to figure out. And and here you are. You got a business, write a book. You're both professionals, and
my kids still love us.
Yeah, and
that's what really matters.
For hugs.
Yep. Yep.
Anything else?
I'm sure we could come up with something.
I'm sure
that's okay.
But I think this is a good spot. I think you guys are great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you being here today. I've enjoyed talking with you. It's a great story, and I'm excited to share it. I'm excited for other people to hear it.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope it helps somebody out there who's trying to decide what they want to do, and
hopefully they can be brave.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, that'll about do it for this episode of The People We Meet. I'd like to take a few seconds for some shout-outs. First, to my main man, J-Mac at Studio 42 Recordings for his audio prowess. Second, to my family for putting up with my recording shit scattered all over the dining room table, and for stopping to talk to random strangers wherever we go. And last, to my listeners. This isn't a big show, so it means a lot to me when somebody rolls up to me and says, "Hey man, when are you going to have out some more shows?" So if you know someone who has a story that just has to be told, drop me a line at thepeoplewemeetpodcast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next time.